in the Parsha of Nosoi, chapter 7, verse 1, it says, Vayhi b'yoyim kalos Moshe, and it was on the day of Moshe's completing. And Rashi says on that phrase, Vayhi b'yoyim kalos Moshe, and it was on the day of Moshe's completing, kalos ksiv. The Hebrew word for completing is kalos. Says Rashi, Yom Hakamas HaMishkan, the day of establishing the tabernacle, Hayu Yisrael Kekalo. The Jewish people were like a bride, Hanichneses Lachupo, that enters to the bridal canopy, the wedding canopy. And Rashi is seeing a connection between the word kalos, which means to complete, and kala, which means to be a bride. And what is the connection? The connection is the following. When Moshe was teaching the Jewish people about life, he was telling them that there needs to be a completion. Vahi b'yom kalos Moshe, on the day that Moshe was completing. What needs completion? So Rashi says, you know what needs completion? Completion is when you recognize that you're still incomplete. There's something that still needs to happen. And what is it that still needs to happen? Well, the first thing is that you need to see yourself as being a color. A color is not in of itself complete. A person, a woman who is a bride and enters under a marriage canopy, is hard to say that she's reached completion. In fact, she's only beginning. It's only the beginning of completion. She still has to set up home. She still has to build a family. She's only just beginning. And so the first thing about recognizing what completing is that I'm not yet complete. A kala is headed to completion, but she's not yet complete. And more than that a person should see themselves not only as a bride entering a marriage canopy to complete themselves and their families, but there's another realm called a mishkan. A mishkan is also a chuppah, and the Jewish people are also like a bride, because being Jewish and establishing the mishkan is no more of a completion than a bride entering her marriage canopy. The Mishkan was only the basis for something which had to still be built, something that still had to be expanded. And what is it that needs to be built and expanded? Of course, that is the greatest building and the greatest expansion, and that is the world, a better world. And so what we're learning from this Rashi is that when the Torah says, Vahi b'yom kalos Moshe, and it was on the day of Moshe's completing, then what was Moshe teaching? What is the message that he's giving us? The message is that you first have to know that you're incomplete. There's work to be done. We're incomplete as human beings until we find another person to start completing our lives. We need to become whole people in our personal lives. And even that's not enough. We need to see that there's a greater dimension to our lives, and that is like the Mishkan. And the Mishkan is the chuppah on a world scale. It's the framework of a better existence for us all. That was the teaching of Moshe. Vahi b'yom kalos Moshe. It was on the day of Moshe completing. He taught us that we all need to understand ourselves as being like a kala who needs to get married to another person to become able to expand and grow on a personal level and on a national level. As Yisrael, we also need to see ourselves as a kala so that we can take the chuppah of the Mishkan and grow it and expand it and build it into a better world.